The rumor mill is starting up again, and we're talking about that retro camera that Nikon should be putting out before the Z6 III and Z7 III. I'm going to share my thoughts with you about what I think we should get. Well, guess what? On my ride back from the Gobi Desert, got some signal and saw that Nikon Rumours put out some information about this retro camera that could possibly be coming out in the August-September timeframe. Well, I know I made a video about it a couple weeks back, and a lot of people said, hey, you know, that's not possible and so on. And if you haven't watched that video, I suggest you go ahead and check that one out. I saw a couple of videos come out with people talking about what they think this camera should be and what they think Nikon should be doing as opposed to this particular camera. Now, either way, in my opinion, it's good that Nikon is going to be putting out another camera or two this year, because while the Z8 is a fantastic camera, it's not this price point for everyone, and those of us, myself included, that own the Z6 II was waiting for a Z6 III or something, you know, equivalent to the A7R4 Fuji cameras and all the cameras in that lineup. At this point, I think Nikon putting out any kind of camera is a good thing for them. The Z8 is fantastic. It's basically a Z9 in a smaller body. As a former Z6 and Z6 II owner, I waited for an upgrade, and with none coming, I ended up going to Sony. Now I'm back in Nikon with the Z8, basically stretched my budget to get something that performed very well and do the work that I wanted to do. But a Z6 III would have sufficed if it came out prior to the Z8. At this juncture, a lot of people are out there waiting for something in the $2,000 to $2,500 price point from Nikon. Folks like myself want this camera to be a video camera, but not really as a vlogging camera, something that's good in photos and at the same time do well in video. It doesn't have to have top-end specs, but as we notice, technology marches on. Fuji is up to 40 megapixels in their camera, it's a crop sensor, and it can go all the way up to 8K. Panasonic is doing some of the same things. And of course, the changes mean you have a fan inside the camera to keep it cool. The Z8 and Z9 don't have that. It's a pretty solid camera without it. So let's talk about the retro camera. What is this retro camera? Or what do I think this retro camera should be? I mentioned in the other video that I think they should do something like DF, but make it more like the ZF-C and make it a ZF. What do I mean by that? Well, the DF was mainly photo use only. With Nikon chasing video, you need a video focused camera as well. Not solely video, but something that's going to have really strong video specs. In my other video, I talked about wanting this camera to be a flip out screen, and I think at this juncture we should have it. And it's like a big brother to the ZF-C. Let's start with that. As I'm thinking about this, the ZF-C is a really great camera. You know, for those of us who shoot a lot more photos than videos, we didn't really pay that camera any attention. But that camera is selling very well. You know, it's kind of strange how we don't think that the retro camera thing is good anymore. But Fuji's been doing very well selling that camera, and a lot of young people have been picking up those type of cameras to go with it. So if we look at what this camera has, dials on the top. I remember when I had my DF, there are times when I want to slow down and take pictures, you know, you can use all the dials to do all those things. If you went to the next level and you have AI built into this camera that can, you know, manage autofocus, manage IBS very well and get in the same level as this Sony ZV-E1. Now, you have a camera that the younger folks would want, because the young up-and-coming people don't want to have to worry too much about dials and so on and so forth. Some do, because I've met some folks in the last couple of months that are going after the old film cameras and setting all the settings by dials, getting old light meters, and I'm like, wow, you know, in the old days, light meters was a thing. Now we have them built into the sensor that it can do your white balance for you. I think if you have a good photo camera with really solid video specs, it could work very well. Part of me says maybe they should do something like take the Z8 sensor and stick it in this camera. And I know what you guys are going to say, and who needs another 45 megapixel camera? But you know, Sony's been capitalizing on their A7S III sensor, and they've been putting in different cameras across the lineup and selling it. People are still buying it. Enjoying the content? Love what you've seen so far? Find the information useful? Okay, wonderful. Now, next question. Are you subscribed? No? Oh, go on. Get subscribed. A lot of you watching are subscribed, but most of you are not. So while the channel is growing, I'd like to count on your support to help me to grow even more. So if you're coming back and watching the video, or if this is your first time, hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. All right, not going to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. If Nikon did the same thing as Sony and put it in different bodies, for that price point, they certainly have to cut back some features. It makes sense. 45 megapixel, most people probably don't want that. But as at that point, you know, it sounds great to have that, but if the file size is going to be big, and then you need a more powerful computer to deal with these things, and if it's at the 8K that you're using, again, something more powerful. Price point wise, it would make sense because then a ton of people will be flocking to that camera. But if you cut back some of the features, cap it at say 6K or 5K, that'd be fine. But part of me is saying, you know, I think whatever this new sensor I saw, well, it wasn't one, it was more than one in the patent filing. There was BSI sensors and there's stock sensors, but they didn't actually specify what megapixel they were. So there's a few things that they have that they've been patenting and they've been developing. So as far as what's gonna come, we don't know. Some people say they should clean out the inventory of 24 megapixel sensors. I think they probably already did that. We don't have to worry about that anymore. It makes sense now for a new sensor. 33 megapixels, 35 megapixels, 26 megapixels even. You know, as a full frame sensor camera and the A7R5, when you went into the medium mode, it was 26 megapixel. That was a lot. That was pretty good for, you know, the kind of camera that it is. And if you figure you can get up to 4K out of that stuff, 10-bit, really good things, hey, that's fantastic. A camera that level, does it need 12-bit? No. 12-bit video? No. But I think it'll be fine with 10-bit. And most people would love that. Then again, a lot of these cameras are now being like oversampled from 6K. So it could be the same thing. Not straight 4K sensor, but an oversampled 6K sensor or 8K sensor that you're getting a 4K image out of. Because what people are looking for on the video side is better quality. Now, if it's a retro style DF, ZFC, you're talking about single shot. And some people are like, no, I want a bit more. No, leave that for the Z6 III, Z7 III. Those cameras can get this one. You're still giving it a retro style thing, good video specs, but you're cutting back on the photo specs. That's if you're using the 45 megapixel camera, sensor. If you're not, then maybe you can bring it up to like 5 frames per second. In a retro body, you're not going to need like crazy amount of stuff to shoot. Part of me also say, maybe you can do it as this camera that can be really good in photos. But of course, when we talk about really good photos, high dynamic range and so on, we're looking at really expensive cameras and we want really high megapixel. So you can go in different ways with this particular camera. We don't really know because at this junction, like I remember saying it could be 24, it could be 45 megapixel. No one's talking about a different sensor at this point. But you know, I'm hopeful that maybe we'll see something from Nikon and whatever new camera they come out with. I'm curious to hear what you guys are thinking about this one, because a lot of different sites have different thought processes on what it should be and, you know, why they shouldn't do it or why they should do it. And I think it kind of makes sense. Let's just give something out there for the younger folks who are hipsters, I guess if you want to call them that, like Nikon. They like the ergonomics, they like the look, they like the image quality. You know, we like these things about it. And the other guys have been going to Fuji, I think, a lot because you have all these different simulation modes of the old film days. And for whatever reason, films seem to be making a comeback. Now we have simulation modes, it's not simulation, I forgot to call it on the Nikon side. But you have multiple things in the cameras you can use to give it certain different looks. But I don't think most of us who are shooting really pay attention to those things. We kind of prefer, you're doing architecture, you're doing studio, you're doing wedding, whatever. You want the greatest image quality. You don't want any of those trick things. But younger minded people are really delving into these things and putting out some great photos. So give them the camera that can do all that stuff. Pull away some of the people that Fuji has. Get some of that market share. That's not a bad thing for Nikon to do. That's getting them to come back in our minds, but at the same time, to continue in the future. Because the way I look at it is, I'm in my 50s now. A lot of old shooters have been around with Nikon for years. Some people out there since, the film days. I didn't start with Nikon until digital. But we know that at this juncture, Nikon is not really catering to us. We have the money to buy the expensive cameras, the Z8, Z9. Younger folks don't. But these are the people that still want to migrate from their phones as they get better and learning things to now taking much better image and they can afford it. Hey, so $2,500, $22,000, getting a nice camera that you can grow into for the next couple of years. That's great for them. So I think Nikon should do that camera, but make it really good. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts again. Put it in the comments. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please remember to subscribe. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for camera gear and parts, use my links below. I'm now an Amazon associate, and I'd like to grow this channel even more with your support. So thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day.